from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program. We are live and national, and it's my pleasure to be with you here. It really is. And I got to tell you, amigos, if you want to join us on the late night national town hall conversation, you want to enjoy some of the fun here, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. I was in a happy-go-lucky, chipper mood, ready to go, ready to rock and roll and talk about Venezuela and a bunch of other things that are going on today. And I've got to say that something popped up on my feed and, man, messed up my whole day. What it was, new footage of this attack that was released by the police there. And the attack of this the girl in North Carolina. And again, I can hear about people getting killed all over the place. And I feel bad. But, you know, you don't know these people. So it's kind of like, oh, man, what a shame. Right? But every now and again, one of these things finds its way to you where you can really commiserate, where you can really relate, where you start to see a part of you, right? In my situation, this girl's the same age as my daughter. And my daughter, who, you know, she's in life now. She's doing the same thing. She's working. She works 2 jobs. She graduated from college. She's got roommates. She's doing her thing. And you can't help but think, man, you know, there's been plenty of times when my kid was in school in Virginia that she would come visit us on Amtrak. And I was always concerned about weirdos on the train. You know, it's what dads do. And then you see a video like this, and let me tell you, it messes you up. It really, really does. But new information. And this man that stabbed the Ukrainian girl on the train in Charlotte, now facing a federal charge. Apparently there is now more video that's been released. And with the video that was released, there's, you know, some transcribed audio. And really just horrific stuff that's going on here. But the United States Attorney, Russ Ferguson, issued a statement today in a press conference indicating that this was a terroristic act and that no one should sit in fear while on the train. And he held back tears. And I got to say, I held back my own tears today watching this video. Really, really messed up. A statement from this press conference said, as I reflect on the tragic murder of Irina Zarutska, my heart continues to go out to her family and our community as we try to make sense of this horrific and senseless loss. And some of the video that's being released, is getting to me, I guess, slowly. Some others may have gotten this sooner, but I've only seen it as of today. People were asking yesterday if this were a hate crime, and I understand why people were asking. This is typically what happens, right? If it's a white cop, a black person, a white other person, whatever. When, you know, the racist people love a juicy story. And yesterday, we had at least I had no idea of any racial animus involved. From what I could see, the guy said nothing, did what he did, walked away, mumbled a few things. But now the mumbling was transcribed, and apparently as he's walking away, he says, I got that white girl good. And this is horrifying to think that, you know, this girl sat down on the train for 5 minutes, if that. And the majority of those 5 minutes were her living her final moments, where 0 people came to help her until she was out. And the video I just watched, horrific. Not only, do you see the look of horror on her face as she realizes she was attacked. I don't know if she realizes she was stabbed or not, but she's afraid, very afraid. And you see this look of fear on this poor girl's face. And then she goes on to pass out, or passing out, as she falls off the chair. Blood begins to flow everywhere. And you see her hand go back up on the chair as if she's trying to climb back up. I mean, just really gut-wrenching. This is something, I wish I did not see. I did not seek out to see this. It popped into my Instagram feed. And usually things like that say, has sensitive content. Click here if you want to see it. I oftentimes do click because I like to see what it is. It's usually some sort of like cop shooting or something like that. But this wasn't the case. It just popped up. I opened Instagram and boom, there it was. And let me tell you, I definitely don't feel mature enough to watch that. Absolutely horrific to see this happen. And I know there's people out there, critics of mine especially, saying, oh, that's funny. You don't bat an eye when they're killing small kids in Gaza, when they're doing this, when they're doing that. I think there's an expectation that people die in war. There's an expectation that people die in a lot of armed conflicts. I have an expectation that people are going to get killed in New York City. People are going to get killed in Chicago. Every Monday when I come to work, I know that I can count on a story. Sadly, I can count on a story of that. What I do not know, and where I don't think that there is any expectation, is people riding the train. At least not in North Carolina, right? If you're riding the subway in New York, I wouldn't do it if I weren't armed and in a big group. I don't recommend it. I got really close the other day to taking the subway. It was the daytime. I was in Midtown, and I said, you know what, I'm going to take the subway down to World Trade, our studio at World Trade Center. And then I thought twice, and I said, you know what, who knows, right? Who knows how this can get derailed? And I'm a kid who grew up in Brooklyn, but it's just not worth the issue. It's not worth the Daniel Penny. Remember Daniel Penny, who had tried to diffuse a situation, put somebody in a headlock, chokehold, whatever it was. Guy died. And then they try to put, they said, you're good. It was self-defense. You're okay. And then they said, no, hold on a second. We're going to try and get you on murder. And then eventually he got off, thanks to Thomas Kniff and, his legal team. But, man, let me tell you, this is just a wild world that we're living in. But the man accused of fatally stabbing this Ukrainian girl, he's now heard on the video saying, I got that white girl. And all the passengers just stood there, honestly, I'm guessing, in fear of their own lives and in disbelief. And this is a terrible thing. A terrible thing. Let me see right here. I didn't notice until now the man accused of stabbing and killing the Ukrainian woman in Charlotte, North Carolina, said on camera, I got that white girl, while walking around with her blood dripping from his knife. Nobody reacts on the train, reflecting how Americans are used to urban ultra-violence. That's a quote from journalist Andy No that he posted on Twitter. The video, again, it shows passengers seemingly acting as though nothing unusual happened. And again, it happened in seconds, so I understand that. If you're minding your business on a train and that girl made no noise, she got stabbed in the neck, she was in shock. I think the people that were next to them likely saw half of what happened. And there's one guy in the back that appears homeless. I think he's been identified as Mr. Brown, a homeless man. Oh, never mind. Brown is the guy. Never mind, the guy who done this. Arrested 14 previous times, criminal history dating back to 2014. DeCarlos Brown is his name. Absolutely horrific, this story. Anyway, I just wanted to give you an update on that story because that is new from the last time that we spoke. And just a really sad thing. Really, really is. Anyway, and let's see. What else do we have here? Democrats are holding on to a House seat in a special election to replace the departed Jerry Connolly. What else do we have here? That's a really big story here today. So many things going on. But that thing really, if I'm being frank, it happened, I don't know, 11 or 12 minutes ago, and really threw me for a loop. I was ready to get in here to talk about how bad the commies are and how they're coming to New York and how there's these polls out. And I guess I'll make a comment about that before we move on to what's going on with this bombing in Qatar. But do you remember 2016? Because I do. Hillary Clinton was all but moving into the White House and picking the drapes, right? They were like, Donald Trump, no way he can win. This guy can't win. I remember that clear as day. Then they said she's polling at whatever percentage. He's polling at, single digits, whatever they came up with, right? There's no way he can win, blah, 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 blah. And guess what? He ends up becoming president. So keep that in mind as you look at some of these polls coming out of New York City. Because I'm out in the streets. I spent the weekend on the streets, and I didn't hear anything or see anything that indicated that there's people that are looking to really elect this guy because they like what he stands for. But all that said and done, I want to get to our guest. Because just like we're talking about the evil that was on this train and the evil that is communism, there's evil all over. And there's a brand new book called Confronting Evil by the legendary TV talk show host Bill O'Reilly, the host of No Spin News, and he's coming up straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
The world's most ruthless men, past and present, exposed.
Evil is contagious.
Bill O'Reilly uncovers the disturbing parallels between history's monsters and today's global threats.
Evil doesn't just happen.
And if America doesn't fight them, who will? Leland Vittert hosts Bill O'Reilly, Confronting Evil, Wednesday.
That is the latest from Bill O'Reilly. And, of course, you guys know Bill O'Reilly. He held it down on prime time on the Fox News channel for seemingly forever. And continues to knock it out of the park with his books and his commentaries on the radio. He's the host of No Spin News and the O'Reilly Update. You can find all that stuff at BillO'Reilly.com, and he's with us now. Bill O'Reilly, welcome back, sir.
Rich, how you been?
I've been well, thank God. I've been well, despite the crazy stuff that's happening in the news. I'm hopeful for a better future, and I love the topic of this book, Confronting Evil. And it would have been. I can't wait until you to add it to the Killing series, so it's Killing Evil, because I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, we pivoted last year to Confronting the Presidents, did very well. And this is the second in the Confronting series. And it's about every single American. I say that, people go, what? I thought it was about bad guys. It is about bad guys, the worst guys. And I couldn't find a woman to come close. I looked, Rich, but I couldn't find any female that measured up to Mao and Putin, the Ayatollah, Hitler, Stalin, on and on. But the reason that these men were allowed to perpetuate their evil was because good people looked away. And we're seeing that in America right now. We're not confronting evil, and we have to change. And that's why this book is so relevant, and everybody should check it out.
Well, listen, Bill O'Reilly, I think you could not have written this book at a more important time. It's not only is it prescient, it's necessary right now. You mentioned Stalin, Hitler, Mao Zedong, Ayatollah Khomeini, the first one, not Khomeini, this current iteration, Putin, which I'm glad is on the list because I think so many people, including some of my friends on the right, seem to idolize this guy, and the cartels who have been
right. I mean, 1 million Russian casualties, his own people, for what? And then he's bombing and droning innocent women and children, hundreds of thousands, 10 million displaced. Again, for what? For his ego. He's a psychopath. President Trump learned that the hard way, and he's going to have to be dealt with. And that is a big drama of our time. Everybody in the world is affected by this because I believe that Putin would use nuclear weapons. He's a psychopath. If his survival was threatened, he would use nukes.
What do you think that looks like? If that happens, I mean, is it? I guess it seems like the end of Putin for sure, and possibly a big dent in the future of Russia.
Sure. I mean, he would take out as many people. He's got a dock. I mean, we explain all this in the book. So Putin has got a dock on the Black Sea. He's the wealthiest man in the world, by the way. And wait till you see how he made his money. But he's got a big mansion there. And underneath the mansion is a bunker, a lavish bunker that he could survive in if nukes started to fly. And I don't think there's any accident. This guy, he's about as dangerous as they come, about as evil as they come. And we, the United States, has to deal with him. And you need to know who your enemy is. There's too many Americans who just don't know anything about him. They don't know the danger that faces them and their family. And that's why I wrote this book, and I hope that people check it out.
Me too. Listen, I hope everybody buys a copy of this book for themselves and one to give away. But Bill O'Reilly, I mean, I've seen so many people very interested in Putin saying, he stands up for so many of the things that we stand up for in the West. He's against BLM and the LGBTQ movement. He stands up for the church, his Orthodox church, and he's always, standing up for real men, bravado and machismo. And I think, are you kidding me? It's crazy what people fall for nowadays.
Look, Tucker Carlson, my old teammate, but had an interview last week, and I wrote a column on BillO'Reilly.com, Rich, analyzing what he said. He said that Putin's the most effective leader in his lifetime. Well, I guess you could have said that about Hitler, right? Hitler conquered all of Europe. Hitler pretty much single-handedly started World War II. That's pretty effective. But what does that mean? Putin is pure evil. And anybody justifying him, his regime, and his actions are misguided in the extreme.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, Bill O'Reilly, you lay this out pretty good. Not only do you talk about, current-day strongmen like Vladimir Putin, but you also mentioned the Mexican drug cartels, Pablo Escobar, the Medellin cartel, El Chapo Guzman, who just had a big shaking up in his organization with 18 of his family members turning themselves over to the United States, I guess potentially cooperating. And then you also mentioned some of the classics, right? Ayatollah, the first Ayatollah, Mao Zedong, Hitler, and Stalin. And I want you to touch on a couple of those when we come back. Amigos, we're going to come right back with the man, the myth, the legend, Bill O'Reilly, author of Confronting Evil. You can get it on Amazon, pre-order it, do what you got to do, because this is another one of those bangers that O'Reilly puts out, and he's covering all the bad guys here. Keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdes coming right back with Bill O'Reilly.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Federal Drug Enforcement Administration says a week-long cartel crackdown led to nearly 200 arrests just in New England. The DEA says they were all members of the Sinaloa cartel, the largest drug cartel in the world. 25 investigators went one-on-one with the DEA special agent in charge about their recent operation. He says the vast Sinaloa network has deep roots in New England.
They're our public enemy number one.
Jared Forget, the special agent in charge of DEA's New England Field Division, says last week the DEA set out to arrest as many members of the Mexico-based Sinaloa cartel as possible. New England saw the highest number of regional arrests at 171, with 49 in Massachusetts, 33 in New Hampshire. Connecticut saw the most at 64.
Do you think people would be surprised to learn how many members of that cartel are operating probably in plain sight in their communities?
Sure. So Sinaloa cartel in every single state across America, more than 40 countries around the world, and obviously they're in every state throughout New England.
So that is, again, a report that shocking for a lot of people, right? That the Sinaloa cartel is operating with impunity up until recently with in every state in New England. Makes me think they're likely in every state in America. But this is why Bill O'Reilly, the television host and author extraordinaire, wrote about this in his book. Which book? Glad you asked. It's called Confronting Evil. You can get it on Amazon. Make sure you order a copy for yourself, one to give away. And Bill O'Reilly is, prolific when he puts this stuff together. And in this, he's included the Mexican drug cartels. Bill O'Reilly, welcome back. Tell us why you included the cartels kind of at large and then Escobar and El Chapo individually.
Because they're the worst. And when I was a kid, and I don't know whether it was the same with you, Rich, but people who sold narcotics, heroin and cocaine, were pariahs.
Yeah,
were the
sure.
lowest form of humanity. They were looked down upon. They were scorned. They were isolated. And this is in Levittown, New York, on Long Island. Now, open drug dealing is common in most American cities. And it's not scorned anymore. If you sell narcotics, you are evil, because you don't know whether those drugs are going to kill the person buying them. Yes, the person buying them has a responsibility. We all know that. But you're the merchant. You are evil. And the two top guys that became billionaires are profiled in my book, as you mentioned, Escobar and El Chapo. And where do you see how these guys lived and what they did with their ill-gotten gains, the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people? They didn't care. They couldn't care less. There are two things that drive evil: money and power. And
sounds like politics.
Throughout the book, I explain exactly how these evildoers lived and how they got to where they were to do so much destruction. And the commonality is that most people looked away. On the drug barons, they bribe people. And the excuse in Mexico and in South America is, well, if I didn't take the bribe, they'd kill me and my family. Okay, that's not invalid, but then get out. If you can't take that kind of heat, I don't know whether I could, then get out. Don't allow them to do what they're doing. And Mexico should absolutely cooperate with the Trump administration to try to destroy these cartels. But are they? No. They're afraid of them, or they're on the take, one or the other.
What are some of the, the similarities or differences that you saw between Escobar, who, rose to prominence in the 70s and 80s, and El Chapo, who was active, shortly after that and is now in U.S. custody?
Well, the similarities are the same. I mean, these are crude people, sadistic killers. They exploit weakness. There's not a lot of difference. And I could have thrown in 10 others whose names you might not know, but they're just as heinous. But it is the governments that fail to control them that are evil as well. You just can't turn away. This is 9/11 week, Rich.
Yeah.
There would not have been a terror attack 24 years ago if not for the Ayatollah Khomeini. He's on the cover of Confronting Evil. That state-sanctioned terror coming out of Iran, headed by him, allowed these killers to massacre 3,000 people on 9/11, and countless others afterward that have cancer, that have lost family members, their lives are devastated. The Ayatollah Khomeini did that. It was him. And the Persian people looked away. They allowed it, and they allow it to this day. In 1934, Hindenburg in Germany, the president of the country, died. The chancellor, second in command, was Adolf Hitler. Soon after Hindenburg's death, there was a vote, a plebiscite, a yes or no. And it said, we, the German people, give Adolf Hitler total power to do whatever he wants. 90% of the German people voted yes. And you tell me they don't have blood on their hands? They do.
Wow.
And I made headlines this week by saying that anybody in New York City who votes for Mandani is committing an evil act, because Mandani says that he is not going to enforce the law. He does not believe in incarceration. He wants to cut $1 billion from the police budget, and he believes the NYPD is racist. Well, what the deuce do you think is going to happen if he wins the mayoral race? There are going to be more dead bodies in the street. Now, Mandani himself is responsible, along with the other progressive leadership in New York State, but anyone who votes for him is voting for death, because that is what is going to happen. And there's no doubt about it. And, you know, when you attack evil, as I have in the book and on my commentary, then evil comes after you. And I've been dealing with that my whole career.
I bet. We've seen a lot of it. Bill O'Reilly, what do you, if you had to call the New York City mayoral race today, who wins?
Mandani wins. Now, I believe that the current mayor, Adams, is going to drop out. He's only polling at 9%. He can't possibly win. He doesn't have any money. And then he's going to have to pay for the campaign out of his own pocket, which that man will never do. That'll tighten it up between Cuomo and Mandani. The Republican Party is not really a factor in New York, which is one of the problems, because it's a one-party state like Illinois, and these progressives have seized power to do all of these unbelievably dangerous things that have led to death and destruction. I mean, the fact that the government of Chicago and Illinois will not accept federal protection to stop the murders in the poor districts of Chicago is just incredible. I've never seen anything like it. It's been going on for crazy 20 years.
But have you seen how the residents are responding? Democrats up in arms saying, hey, we want Trump, we want the troops.
Some. But I submit to you that if an election were held tomorrow, Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, would win. So some people are saying enough, but not enough. There should be a populist uprising against evil. Should be that in Russia. I mean, what are these Russian people? I mean, how many more deaths do you have to have before you say enough? You got 1 million of your own killed or wounded. For what? I mean, it is really reaching critical mass on this planet, Rich.
Sad times we're in, Bill O'Reilly. Let everybody know the best place to go to get a copy of the book, to check out your commentary, and to stay plugged in.
Okay. So we are the best-selling nonfiction authors in the world. It's easy to get Confronting Evil. You go to Amazon, you go to Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. But the best deal is this. You go to BillO'Reilly.com, you sign up for premium membership, and you get all kinds of perks for doing that, and exclusive commentary from me. You get the book free. So it's BillO'Reilly.com. Sign up for premium membership. Do the math. I mean, I'm giving you the membership in the book, and you get the book free. That's by far and away the best deal. And we are prospering. I think our message is noble. But most of all, I want these evildoers to be held to account. And if I have to do it by myself, I'll do it by myself.
Well, Godspeed to you, sir. Hopefully you won't have to do it by yourself, because many of our listeners will get a copy of the book and start joining the fight against evil, confronting evil. Bill O'Reilly, you are a gentleman, a scholar, a patriot. Thank you, sir. Godspeed.
Always good to talk to you, Rich. Thanks for having me in.
You bet. And amigos, your thoughts, your calls, your reactions to all of these crazy despots and everything else that's going on. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people. Really very, very innocent people. In every place, they control radical left judges, politicians, and activists, and they've adopted a policy of catch and release for thugs and killers. In Charlotte, North Carolina, we saw the results of these policies when a 23-year-old woman who came here from Ukraine met her bloody end on a public train. And here's a picture of it. This is the picture of it. And this is a picture of the woman. A beautiful young girl that never had problems in life, with a magnificent future in this country. And now she's dead. She was slaughtered by a deranged monster who was roaming free after 14 prior arrests. We cannot allow a depraved criminal element of violent repeat offenders to continue spreading destruction and death throughout our country. We have to respond with force and strength. We have to be vicious just like they are. It's the only thing they understand. 24 of the top 25 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrat mayors.
Run by Democrat mayors. Listen, I'm not... Years ago, somebody told something to me, a guy named Jose Arango, and he said, listen, I'm not trying to say that all Democrats are communists. I'm just saying all the communists I happen to meet are Democrats. And it was funny, but there was a degree of realism to the comment. And sadly, today, no matter what people on CNN say, no matter what anybody anywhere is saying, crime has been embraced by the Democrat Party. And they'll try to defend it at every single turn. They'll try and make it into something that it's not. Instead of saying, hey, look, we've got a problem with crime. We're being too soft on criminals. Stop crying about racism. Stop crying about, Trump being a dictator. Just stop. Put bad people in jail. Keep the bad people in jail. Let them serve their time. If it's time for them to come out, then you get them out. But you're not going to allow people. So another comment from last night. Our audience is ahead of the game on stuff. Said, some of these people are judges that don't even go to law school. I saw a post about that today. I haven't had a chance to research, so I can't get too into it. But one of the things that they were saying is that this woman who was the judge that allowed him to be released, from the post I saw, and again, unverified, but if it's true, imagine that this woman is a sitting magistrate judge who's never been to law school. That's bizarre. In the states, and I believe 32 states allow this practice, but they typically allow it in rural areas. They allow it in places where you don't have access to other judges. Bottom line here is we need to give our people the best, not, scraping by. We've seen what it's like when you're scraping by, when you give all these second chances, when you water things down. We need to stop watering things down and do the right thing. Let's go to Lance in Galloway, New Jersey, WOND 1400. Lance, go right ahead.
Hey, gracious good evening, Rich. Great segment with Bill O'Reilly, and I'm going to segue off the word evil. I don't know. Like I spoke with your caller, nice guy, very pleasant.
Yeah.
I watched the latest video of the girl like sitting there in shock, slowly dying while the blood is coming out and it's on her pants. But if I'm not mistaken, there are 5 other people in that segment, in that cabin of the rail car.
Yeah.
And the person videoed. And none of those people.
The video is surveillance from the train.
Okay, all right. It's a video surveillance, but none of those people did anything.
Yeah, it actually somebody comes to her aid after 2 minutes, but she was definitely dead by that time. And I'm not going to defend anyone here. I will say I think people were in shock. I can tell you, look, I want to say I'm going to spring into action. I have no idea how I would react in that situation. I hope that I do something good, but I've got to tell you, the whole thing is surreal. I'm watching it, and I think it's surreal. The fact that man so casually, nonchalantly just goes stabbing her in the side of the neck, her reaction of fear and astounded. She's astounded. She's like, what just happened? What's going on? Why did you just hit me? Why did you push me? Right? You could see all of that. Then she realizes, oh my gosh, I think I'm bleeding. You could see all of this in her face. And then that's it. She's out. She slumps over. She falls on the floor. She tries to climb back up. Blood is everywhere. It's horrific. And I think if I were watching that, I don't know that I might be frozen with fear or not. You know, those people there, all I could think of is them saying, if I move, maybe he stabs me, right? I don't know. I'm not going to castigate them. I am going to say it seems like they're used to seeing bad things on the train. And like many in New York, they see so much of this bad stuff that they're just like, look, mind your own business, look the other way. You're trying to get home tonight. And that's no way to live. It's no way to live. People shouldn't live in fear on the train, walking in the streets, kids in the park, none of that. We need to get a grip on things. And if this were a nationwide problem where, you know, we were seeing this type of crime, these senseless, crazy people killings all over the place, and they were happening everywhere, then I'd say, you know, we've got a big problem. But the sad truth is they're happening where Democrats have the most control. So Democrats, please, let's start taking care of the mentally ill. Let's put more cops on the streets. Stop with your nonsense of defunding the police. People are dying. Lance, I appreciate it, brother. WOND, shout out to 1400 Atlantic City in the building. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. And thrilled to be here with you. It's truly a blessing to be on the microphone. We're back for another hour. We're live and national. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call, 833-4-VALDES, 833-482-5337. And plenty to discuss tonight. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has revised some job numbers, and they've now found that BLS during Biden's administration has overestimated job growth by over 911,000 jobs. This is the biggest revision in the department's history. At the time of this snapshot, Trump has only been in office for 3 months. So this isn't one that we can pin on El Trompito. But we have a report on this. And again, this is staggering. Even CNN had to admit it. Check this out.
in the months of April 2024 through March of 2025, the U.S. economy in terms of the jobs market was a lot weaker than we had originally expected and which we originally seen as reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But today's report is an annual report. It comes out every single year, and there's been some sort of revisions that the BLS has done for the better part of 90 years now. What is a little atypical about this report is that the revision is so large. It is the largest on record, 911,000 jobs to the downside, fewer jobs added over the course of that 12-month period. If you average that out, that's about 76,000 fewer jobs added each month. And that time period that we're talking about, that is mostly under the Biden administration, just a couple months, 3 months under the Trump administration. Now, sectors that really saw the steepest number of jobs lost in terms of what we thought was going to be there, but actually didn't end up being there, was trade, transportation, and utilities. 226,000 fewer jobs there. Leisure and hospitality, 176,000 fewer jobs than initially reported. And for professional and business services, 158,000 fewer jobs than initially reported.
So there's that. Then, of course, there's federal statutes now that apparently fit the bill for this horrific, grisly crime, this murder, this demonic assassination that occurred in North Carolina, with the feds now pressing charges against this man, DeCarlos Brown. And good. Let's press as many charges as we can. I understand that the mayor, what's her name, Vi something or other, making the claim, which I believe is disgusting. I think it's absolutely disgusting that she would even make comments like this. But the mayor of Charlotte, making these comments that we need to have compassion for Mr. Brown, not for this girl. New information that's come out from the video indicates that as he's walking away, and you could see it on the video, I just couldn't hear it clearly, but now there's some transcriptions of it where he says, I got that white girl good. I mean, that's insanity, right? I mean, truly insanity. That, if, again, I can't wrap my head around why he did it to begin with, and to think that he did it because she was white is just insanity, in my opinion. But be that as it may, the mayor of Charlotte, she's been getting a lot of backlash because of her response for asking for compassion for the madman that's accused of slaughtering this poor girl. And she, whatever fire she's coming under, she deserves it, right? I mean, come on. Here's what she said. This is a tragic situation that sheds light on the problems with society, safety, with society's safety nets related to mental health care and the systems that should be in place. And she puts that the perpetrator, DeCarlos Brown Jr., quote, appears to have suffered a crisis. He had a crisis? Excuse me, miss. The girl had a crisis. The girl was murdered. I think that is one of the most insensitive things I've ever heard a politician say. And I got to tell you, the last politician that said something stupid like that, real stupid, right? What was his name? Ralph Northam, right? Was that, or was the other guy who was governor of Virginia? And he was like, listen, parents, you don't really know what's going on with your kids. We know what's going on with your kids. We know what's best for your kids. That guy lost with flying colors. He lost, right? And good for him for making such a dumb comment and allowing the Republicans to take over and do a damn good job, I would say. But my goodness, how some people make these comments is just beyond stupid, in my opinion. But that is what she said. And this is what's going on lately. And this is what we have. And there's a clip I want to play here. Hopefully I have enough time. Mr. Good, let me know if there's time to play the clip from the guy from CNN. What is his name? He looks like George Costanza a little bit. Come on. I'm forgetting his name. Reliable sources. Stelter. With Mr. Stelter. Brian Stelter. I think we have one of those. Do we have one of those? Yeah, I see it. 0908-5. It's I think it's a minute long. Let me know if you get it, because I'd like to play it for the audience. But he basically goes on the killing of this woman, and he says that some of the comments on this story are badly racist, striking fear in the hearts of Americans. Listen to this.
The energy from pro-Trump activists. They picked up on this video from local news and ran with it. It's a little bit like the times when civil rights groups have raised attention about police-involved shootings. In this case, it is Trump-aligned influencers who are posting up a storm about this case on social media. Really, over the weekend, Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, other Trump-aligned figures succeeded in making this senseless death a symbol of big city crime. We heard President Trump asked about it yesterday when he was heading home from New York City. He didn't seem to know much about it. He said he would get briefed, and then today Trump did know all about it. That's exactly what has happened here. This story has trickled up from local news to social media and now to the president's attention, and it's being used, as you said, Brianna, as a political symbol, with MAGA media calling for more forceful punishments and more incarceration. I have to say, some of the replies to Musk, some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman. The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping. But there are also legitimate questions about this so-called career criminal, someone who had been a repeat offender. And those questions, I hope they're not lost amid all of the cesspool kind of comments on social media.
Now, Brian Stelter, I have to ask you a question. And if you can come on the show, I'd love if you would. But let's be very frank here, right? Somebody asked me if this was a hate crime yesterday because it was involving a black person and a white person. And my response was, I didn't see anything that would indicate that. Today, we have more information. We have the murderer saying, I got that white girl good. Now, you can do with that information what you want. But to say that Trump, Charlie Kirk, Elon Musk, and the comments are badly racist or baldly racist, as you just said, don't you think it's a little bit more racist when you say, I got that white girl good and you killed her? I mean, just putting that out there. Which one seems more racist to you? Now, I'm not condemning one racism and propping up another. I'm just saying, people can say all sorts of stupid things. I've been brown my whole life and I've heard lots of things. I've never killed somebody and nobody's ever killed me. So I have to, again, ask the question, where's the real racism here? When there's a dead white person and a black person that said, I got the white girl good. To me, that sounds racist. And I'm not, trying to jump on that gravy train. But when CNN is going to make comments trying to say that it's the MAGA people that are racist and that the comments on the post are racist, I mean, I think you've got to be kidding me, right? This is the epitome of crazy. Anyway. This is why we invite these people, but we don't get them. But every now and again, we do get some people that will come on the show that can really add benefit to the show. And like last night, we talked with Dr. Eric Cole. And he was talking about how there's been this data breach. And all sorts of people need to start using two-factor authentication. And he said, if you can get one of those services to protect, your digital footprint, then you need to do it. Well, that's exactly what I did. I reached out to our vice president of talent and marketing. And I said, who do we have that does this? And they said, we've got WebRoot. And I said, well, you know what? That's great because I want to choose a company that's going to give us total protection, right? With all this recent news of a major credit reporting agency, all of their data being breached, 4 million people being put at risk, it gives me, and it'll give anybody who uses this service, peace of mind. Because WebRoot Total Protection is an all-in-one device protection. It gives you privacy protection and identity protection. This can help keep you safe in the event that your personal data is compromised. WebRoot Total Protection allows identity protection for up to 10 identities, up to $1 million in fraud expense reimbursement, 24/7 U.S.-based customer support, and elder fraud. Special hotline just for that. They even cover identity and dark web monitoring. This is important because this is the stuff that's going on. This is what China and the rest of the bad guys that are out there cyber hacking us this is what they're up to. WebRoot's got coverage that includes antivirus protection, VPN, cloud backup, and a whole lot more. So they can protect you, they can protect your family, and they allow you to live a better digital life. Now, if you act now, you can get 50% off WebRoot Total Protection or WebRoot Essentials when you go to webroot.com. That's WEBROOT.com/Rich Valdes. And you can go ahead and get the 50% discount. Just put my name in there. Webroot.com/myname. You get 50% off. Anyway, I hope you'll do that during the break, and I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
right. But you're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
From Israel and the IDF on a strike in Qatar. Of course, you've heard about it all day. I want you to hear what Prime Minister Netanyahu had to say.
I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas. These are the same terrorist chiefs who planned, launched, and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th. On this day, as in previous days, Israel acted wholly independently, and we take full responsibility for this action. And this action can open the door to an end of the war in Gaza. Israel has accepted the proposal put forward by President Trump to end the war, beginning with the immediate release of all our hostages, which have been held in the dungeons of Gaza for 700 days. If President Trump's proposal is accepted, the war can end immediately. I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas.
So that, again, Prime Minister Netanyahu taking full responsibility for the strike against the terrorist chiefs of Hamas that are in Qatar. Of course, the United States gave their own reaction to that, saying, look, this was not something we had anything to do with. President Trump and Caroline Leavitt also making that comment. But I want to get some analysis from one of our favorite generals. General Blaine Holt is with us, retired Brigadier General, United States Air Force, former C-17 Commander. He's a tech entrepreneur. You've seen him on Newsmax, senior Newsmax contributor, as well as deputy representative to NATO. And he knows what's going on. He knows where a lot of these bodies are buried, as they say. General, welcome back.
Oh, it's great to be with you. Wow, what a day we are having in the geopolitical world.
Yeah. General, it's very exciting, very interesting, very fast-moving. Talk to me about what's going on here. Again, this is not the first time we've seen this, right? Where Israel's like, we're pounding down on what's going on in Hamas. Oh, wait a second, we're going to go over here and hit the Houthis. And hold on a second, we're going to go over here and hit this one. And they have been operating on multiple fronts, and they do it seemingly, from my perspective, effortlessly. But talk to me about the political fallout here. Of course, Qatar rolling out the red carpet, quite literally, for President Trump earlier this year, and just, what that means for the region.
Yeah, so I think that the good thing that Bibi Netanyahu did right after is that he relieved all the ambiguity out of the room when he said, look, we take full responsibility for this. But there is going to be some political damage here with the Qataris. But I will tell you, the response out of the Qataris, while expected, outrage, they're not happy that, an attack was done. They even acknowledged that their own air defense systems did not work. But I think the response is quite muffled as what it could be. We didn't see Arab states out there. We didn't see them unleash protesters everywhere. We didn't see immediate UN activity. So I tend to believe that there was a lot of back-channel things that happened before this hit. And then the other part of it is the intelligence required to accomplish something like this is just so intense. And I think that the masterstroke here, much like Pager Day was for Hezbollah, they started entering back into negotiations for the hostages, and the leaders of Hamas felt very comfortable that they weren't going to be targets during the process of those negotiations. So they grabbed an apartment to have a big meeting, and the Israelis got tipped off, and then you see what happened. Now, this changes the entire board. So you've got Hamas in Gaza orphaned, and now the Israelis and the IDF have all the leverage to bring a humanitarian operation to the Palestinians, get the intel, and rescue as many hostages as you can while you vanquish this evil enemy.
General, I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly because I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to dig in deeper here. You're saying it takes a lot of intelligence to pull something like this off, and that you have these Hamas leaders that are in Qatar. Is it something that you can confirm, deny, agree, wink and a nod? Do you think the Qataris tipped off the Israelis saying, hey, look, these guys are here and we don't want this smoke, but hey, they're here?
Yeah, I don't think the Qataris were outraged enough for me, so I will give you the wink and the blink and the nod because now you have to understand they've got their own national interest too. The last thing they want to do is get into a fight with the United States. Yes, we have our base there, but they want the base there to protect them. So there's a multitude of reasons why the Qataris might just check themselves a little bit as they get really upset. But I even see Erdogan, the Turkish leader, stepping down. He said some things, but it's nothing like what I would have expected when this hit, which I did predict was going to come down. I knew they were going to go after the leadership. I just can't believe it was this bold and brazen.
All right. Well, we're going to continue that conversation straight ahead. Amigos, we're going to get to your calls as well. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. We got General Blaine Holt with us tonight. You guys often say, hey, I want to talk to the general. So if you want to talk to the general, you got a call specifically for him. We're coming back. We're going to do some calls and to continue this conversation on the Israeli airstrike on Hamas in Qatar today, as well as what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, a little bit of that as well. Don't go anywhere. Blaine Holt, Rich Valdes, coming right back.
Look at Rich Valdes. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
This morning, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military that as Israel was attacking Hamas, which very unfortunately was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. President Trump immediately directed Special Envoy Witkoff to inform the Qataris of the impending attack, which he did. The president views Qatar as a strong ally and friend of the United States and feels very badly about the location of this attack. President Trump wants all of the hostages in Gaza and the bodies of the dead released, and this war to end now. President Trump also spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu after the attack. The Prime Minister told President Trump that he wants to make peace, and quickly. President Trump believes this unfortunate incident could serve as an opportunity for peace. The president also spoke to the Emir and Prime Minister of Qatar and thanked them for their support and friendship to our country. He assured them that such a thing will not happen again on their soil.
To be clear, the president disagrees with the location of the strike and that he passed that along to the Prime Minister Netanyahu.
The president just confirmed that in the statement that I just read to you, which I spoke with him about before coming out here.
So there you have it, the White House making their position clear. They had nothing to do with this. They've told Netanyahu, don't do this in Doha again. And it seems pretty clear to me. We've got conflict in the region. The Israelis had to act on this information that they had to continue to destroy their enemy. And sadly, that's where it took them. Hopefully this doesn't become a bigger issue. I want to bring back in our guest, Brigadier General Blaine Holt, retired from the United States Air Force. General Holt, you heard Caroline Leavitt's comments there. Your thoughts?
Yep, she was very measured, precise, her words, every single word was selected because, again, you got to go right into fence mending mode with Qatar. They're very important to us. And the other part that's even more important is we don't want to see any more escalation in the region. We and I think it was very important for the president's message to be, this is it. The Israelis got what they wanted, a clean sweep of Hamas leadership, and now we've got to turn it into a positive, and we're going to reach out to Qatar for their help in that. They've been trying to help broker a peace, but quite frankly, Qatar is the one that harbored these individuals, and so they're not, they're the ones who have been harboring a legitimate military target, and they know that.
Yeah. So, do you think, based on, it sounds like the goal here of the White House is, hey, we know that Bibi may have, gone a little too far here. We're sorry about that. It's not going to happen again. We got the bad guys. The strike was successful. Let's continue to work together. Do you think that's enough?
I do. I based on the immediate reaction today, I do. But I also think that now the final act of Hamas needs to be relegated to the Gazan area, and furthermore, when Israel gets this finished, they've really got to reach out to Qatar, UAE, and the other Arab states and ask for a hand of friendship in putting Gaza back together the right way and taking care of the displaced peoples and the Palestinian peoples the right way. But everybody's got to pitch in. Abraham Accords will be very important, and international efforts got to go. And I think if that happens, I think we'll get to recovery a lot quicker than was previously imagined.
So the end is on the horizon, in your opinion?
It is. It's going to be some brutal fighting in Gaza itself, but you could see something really phenomenal happen now that Hamas, the fighters, know that their life support's gone. They have no access to money anymore, and because the Palestinians also know that, I can't imagine Hamas has a friend anywhere in that region right now.
Got it. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit to what's going on in Russia. You've got the Russians, hitting the Ukrainians hard, the Ukrainians hitting them back. It seems like every time we talk about this, it's the same thing. More, as you say, more men into the meat grinder. Do you see any changes, anything new? I was talking to Bill O'Reilly before, and he surmised that he believes that Putin is crazy enough to use a nuke. Maybe not as a result of this latest, drone strike or flyover over Poland, but tensions seem to be heating up, General.
They are. I don't think I would agree with Mr. O'Reilly on Putin being crazy enough to use a nuclear weapon, but I don't think that, everybody wants Putin to somehow meet his demise. If you don't like Putin, you really won't like what's coming after him, because those people really do believe in the use of tactical nuclear weapons. But what I am concerned about is this latest event in Poland. We've got to learn more. We know that Su-57 fighters were operating in that region near Kursk, Russia, but if they strayed over into Polish airspace, was it more than just drones? The Polish are pretty tight-lipped about what actually got shot down, and again, it's such a tinderbox there right now. I'm also very surprised to see Russian high-end fighters now coming into the war. They were usually using their fighter bombers that, quite frankly, were just staying outside of the country of Ukraine and firing into Ukraine. So what I see is the Russian offensive to close this deal militarily is on, and winter is coming. And so I believe that the Russians have every timeline to meet. They're going to try to get the war done on their terms before the winter comes, whether Zelensky shows up to a negotiating table or not.
All right. What do you suspect happens here? Obviously, that's what they're, signaling they're going to do. But what do you think actually happens?
What I think is going to happen is I think President Trump and Ambassador Witkoff are working behind the scenes to, quite frankly, get the Europeans to follow President Trump's leadership This is where the impediment has been. Lavrov has stated very clearly, the foreign minister of Russia, that we need an agenda as President Trump and President Putin agreed to in Alaska. We will get that agenda and we will put the leaders together and we will sit them down and talk. Now, Zelensky, don't give the Russians that kind of diplomatic space to make assertions that it's not their problem. So what we should be doing is give the Russians that agenda as outlined in Alaska and the Oval Office, and then put the Russians into the corner on, now we should have the meeting, why aren't you meeting? But we haven't done that. Instead, President Zelensky is negotiating this with the press, and the Europeans are trying to put together imaginary peacekeeping forces that are off the table because the Russians said they'll become a target immediately in the war. So, Rich, what I'm worried about is we're on an escalatory path right now. And if President Trump and President Putin can be successful in getting Europe and Zelensky to a table where we can end this thing, I think we can end this thing fairly quickly, with Ukraine still being a sovereign nation and Odessa being their seaport. But they're not winning the war, so they're not the ones to demand terms.
Right. They don't have, as Seinfeld would say, they don't have hand here. They don't have the upper hand. They don't have the lower. They have no hand.
No, they really don't.
I want to go to a call. Somebody has a call about something going on in Russia here. David in Hartford, Connecticut, WDRC. David, you're on with General Blaine, Holt, and Rich Valdes. Go right ahead. Line 2.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me,
go right
Rich?
ahead. Quickly. Go right ahead.
Oh, yeah, there's a boat that's being confiscated by the federal government. It's going to be auctioned off on tomorrow. It's called the Amadea. It's $350 million. What I find very curious is it was seized under the Biden administration, and when they auction it off, proceeds are going to go to Ukrainian people because Russia invaded them, which I think is, you got to be kidding me. Nobody's going to see that money. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And plus,
I don't know much about this. I'm going to defer this to the general. I'm not sure if he's up to speed on this. General, what do you know about this, if anything at all?
Yeah, so I can't give you the granularity on what's being auctioned off. What I can tell you is we need to have audits after this war is over about where all the money went. And then the other thing is there's going to be a lot of court battles about what was done with Russian frozen assets when the war broke out. There's very clear law written here. The UK has already given interest gathered on frozen Russian assets to Ukraine. And so if Russia's going to close this down militarily and define terms, then what they're also going to define and they're going to demand is they're going to demand their frozen assets back. And so, again, that's just going to make the negotiation parts of this much harder.
Well put. David, thanks for your call. General, let everybody know how they can keep up to speed with you and your commentary and everything you're up to.
I would love for people to come visit me at the Newsmax.com webpage. I have an insiders page there called The Irascible Disruptor. I write there almost weekly. And then I'm on X.com at _Irascible. And I always am up for talking to folks, and I definitely appreciate my chance to be on the Rich Valdes Show.
You're the best, General, and we appreciate you being here with us. I appreciate your expertise and your time. Godspeed to you, brother. I hope all is well, and we'll be in touch again soon.
God bless, Rich.
Yes, sir. And, folks, your calls, your thoughts, your opinions coming in right now. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America, and you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America, all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. I'm going to be hearing from you guys momentarily. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something I want to talk about in the upcoming hour, the coveted third hour of the program, which is I want to talk about the progress, a lot of progress being made on rescuing the children that have been MIA, about 300,000 kids. A little more than that, actually. And then recent numbers may put that number over another, like an additional 100,000 on top of that. Kids that were brought into this country by quote unquote, parents or unaccompanied. And then once they're here, they get put into the custody of the Department of Health and Human Services, who then hands them over to a sponsor and says, hey, here, do what you got to do. Check in with us regularly. And they never hear back from these kids. And to the credit of the Trump administration and Tom Homan and many others that are involved in this work, they are cracking the code here. And I think they're up to something like 40,000 kids that have been rescued. And they're not always happy stories, but they're doing the work. They're putting it in. And it just is amazing to me that we had a actual child trafficking pipeline that was set up, the largest human smuggling operation in I would say in history, operated by the government of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Alejandro Mayorkas, a modern day slave trade right at the United States southern border, financed by you. Absolutely insane. So we're going to get into that in a little bit, but I want to go to the phones. I want to know your thoughts. What's going on as we confront evil here together? The phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. Let's go to David calling us from North Platte, Nebraska, KRVN. David, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. How are you this evening?
Wonderful, thanks.
I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm a congressional candidate for Nebraska's 3rd district here, and I'm a former Border Patrol agent, and this last topic you spoke about, the child trafficking, I know it intimately well. But, I was calling just to kind of comment on Bill. He nailed it. We're in a spiritually sick world. We've got to get back to faith and family and traditional values, and that's how you improve the mental health of many of these bad actors. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to get back to thanking God for our families, going to church on Sundays, putting a little money in the offering plate, and really finding our way back to Christ, because
you're right with that. God is the answer. Jesus is the answer. I'm with you on that one. And I'll tell you this, David, part of what's happened is not just this turn towards self and self-indulgence, but moreover, there's an argumentative spirit amongst us. It really is, where, you could see something that's good and righteous and holy, or something that is absolutely gruesome, right? Earlier we were looking at the video. We heard the audio. We know what happened in North Carolina with this young woman, Irina, savagely murdered, demonic assassination. Yet, Brian Stelter of CNN, he decides to take this approach that it's Elon Musk that's the bad guy here. It's Donald Trump and the Trump supporters, the MAGA movement. These are the guys that are being blatantly racist. In his opinion. And again, he could have whatever opinion he wants, but it's very difficult to make the case that those guys are being racist when none of them has stabbed someone to death. And there's this man who says, hey, I got the white girl, and stabbed the white girl to death. And how dare you call someone else racist without calling that guy racist first? It is that type of blindness, that type of thickness of the mind, where people look at you and say, I can't take you seriously. We can have a legitimate conversation over problems that genuinely exist if you're going to acknowledge to say this is a problem. But when you're going to turn a blind eye and say that the man was in crisis when the girl was bleeding to death through her throat, are you kidding me? That's unfathomable. It really is. David in North Platte, thanks for your call. Godspeed to you, my brother. And amigos, we come back. Your calls, thoughts, reactions, and more straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Listen, I like your show. It's the best night show there is. I think you got the best spirit, the best emotions. You're real. You're really a good guy.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And man, let me tell you, just an emotional day, right? Really an emotional day with all of the new developments that are coming out with that story. And maybe for me, my daughter earlier, she was like, what's wrong? Well, why are you so upset? And she said, but you talk about death and things like that all the time. And I said, well, number one, I don't. I actually avoid a lot of those stories because I don't like to be in that kind of mood. But B, it is somewhat, and I'm going to use the word easier, to talk about people being slaughtered in war or, any other type of, kind of expected tragic situation. But you don't expect the Lake and Riley story. You don't expect the Dakara Thompson, right, the 19-year-old girl from Maryland. You don't expect this Arena Zarutska. These are things that nobody is expecting. And I got to tell you, in my 47 years, those stories used to be a lot fewer and far between. Sadly, when you get 2 or 3 in a row like that, it's like it's an everyday occurrence. We've got a problem. And that has to stop. Anyway, amigos, we're going to continue the conversation straight ahead. If you're with us for the next hour, great. If you're not, richvaldes.com. We're streaming live there. 833-482-5337. Still taking your calls. Open phones across America. Keep it locked right here.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. And happy to be here with you. It's a pleasure to be with you. Give me a call if you want to join us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. And sadly, there's not good news to report on many fronts. The United States hitting a new low in math and reading test scores. A new low means that we continue to fail in math and reading in our post-COVID national report cards. And not good. Not good. We have to create homegrown talent, right? The future coders, engineers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, radiographic technicians, you name it. They need to come from the United States. How long and what kind of country do we have if we are constantly importing our talent? Really, we've got to do better. The mastermind of a website called Girls Do Porn just got sentenced to 27 years behind bars for what? For sex trafficking. Listen to this. This was some of these girls died in their hotel room. Oh, it's absolutely horrible. The sick mastermind behind the twisted website Girls Do Porn was sentenced to nearly 30 years in federal prison after dozens of young women delivered gut-wrenching statements begging the judge to throw the book at the pervert. Michael James Pratt, 42 years old, received 27 years in prison by a San Diego judge today, 5 years longer than prosecutors recommended and almost 3 years over the federal guidelines. The sentence came after 38 women that he tricked and even forced into shooting porn videos in California in hotel rooms. Pratt posted these online without their consent, delivering a grueling and fiery testimony from so many of them of how their lives were ruined. Man, that's crazy. One of the victims saying, the life I was meant to have died in that hotel room. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to get into victim blaming here, but I could see how this whole thing is just horrible. One woman begged the court. I asked the court to show no mercy. This is reported in the San Diego Union Tribune. And one woman saying, we're not here for forgiveness. We're here for justice. And a third told Mr. Pratt directly, I won. I'm not your victim. I'm your reckoning. This time, it's you who can't leave. Let me tell you, very, very strong words exchanged by these women that were tricked into things. These girls, again, mostly between 18 and 21 years old, were in a hotel room. A camera crew would be waiting, and they'd be forced into having sex. If they said no, Pratt and his team threatened to cancel their flights home, stick them with exorbitant bills for the lodging and the production costs, or he would threaten to post explicit footage of them online. In several instances, film crews even blocked hotel room doorways with their gear to prevent women from leaving. That's insane. When the pornography shooting was finally completed, Pratt would typically pay the women about $2,000 and promise them the footage would only ever end up in private DVD collections in Australia, only for it to emerge later on his subscription-based Girls Do Porn website and free platforms like Pornhub and others, where they racked up millions of views. When the women found out, many were begging Pratt to remove the footage, but he refused. The reality is that he lied to these women, knowing full well that was going to destroy their lives, according to United States Attorney Sasha Foster. In court today, some of the victims estimated at least 15 women were tricked by Mr. Pratt, later committed suicide or died from drug overdoses. With one victim's mother recalling how she was baffled when her happy daughter suddenly became depressed, drug addicted, and then died of an overdose 2 years ago. Wow. What would I say is the number that wouldn't surprise me, given the number of women who got up and said that they've attempted suicide? Foster said about the prospect of death coming from Pratt's scheme. Pratt apologized to his victims before he was sentenced and said it was never his intention to hurt anyone. Well, what'd you think you were doing when you were blackmailing them with videos and blocking the door so they couldn't leave? Threatening them that you're going to leave them stranded. Come on, man. This guy's a scumbag. Several people who worked for Pratt have also been sentenced to prison, including cameraman Theodore Gee, who was sentenced to 4 years, Ruben Andre Garcia, an adult actor who had sex with many of the women for the films and was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and Pratt's former bookkeeper, Valerie Moser, who will be sentenced this Friday. Pratt and other operators of Girls Do Porn were also ordered to pay nearly $13 million in damages back in 2020. So that's the story there. And again, that's just scratching the surface of what happens in trafficking and sex trafficking. And people wonder, how did this come about? How did we get to this place of trafficking? Well, I'll tell you, not only is there an appetite for it in America, and that's why we have such a prolific problem, but our former president, Joe El Baboso Biden, the border czar, que mala eres, and Alejandro Mayorkas, right? The DHS secretary, former. These guys had this illicit scheme to keep the border open. They literally turned the border agents into travel agents, putting people coming right across the Rio Grande River onto buses, flying them into the country in some cases, and doing overnight flights from Texas to blue sanctuary cities. This whole idea that you can be a sanctuary city is illegal. There's no law that you can make pass or even suggest that says that you as a city mayor or even as a state governor have any power, authority, or jurisdiction over immigration in the United States. You can't protect someone from being prosecuted by immigration law. That is not within your purview as a governor or a mayor, right? That is solely, there's no Department of Immigration for the city of Los Angeles. There's no Department of Immigration in the city of New York or Chicago because they don't have this jurisdiction. There's one Department of Immigration, right? ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, and it's federal because that is a federal function. Anyway, all that being said, Tom Homan was on the Fox News channel. And, man, he really cleared up some of the facts here. There's a lot of kids that have been rescued that were brought here. Plenty of unaccompanied minors that have been making their way into this country since Barack Obama was in office. And that was the first big wave of people back in 2014 that you just started seeing kids coming across the border with no adults. That's when the trafficking started, and Joe Biden put it on steroids. Listen to this.
Of this buoy home we're investing. We found kids in very deplorable conditions, very dirty conditions. We found children who have been raped. We found children who have been beaten down.
We got exclusive access to the team operating from what they call the War Room in Washington, D.C. Working under the Department of Health and Human Services, the team is made up of volunteers from agencies like the FBI and Homeland Security investigations. The team is entirely data-driven. They're focused on analyzing records and addresses to track down where these minors ended up. More than 22,000 unaccompanied children have been found so far under this Trump administration. 27 of the minors were found dead, either murdered or by suicide, car accidents, or drug overdoses. And more than 400 sponsors have been arrested.
We're talking about debt bondage, where children are being made to work off debt, trafficking debt. We're talking about children that were brought into situations and then treated like sexual slaves.
In early 2021, record number of children began crossing the border. According to HHS, between 2021 to 2024, more than 470,000 unaccompanied children crossed into the United States.
So not only did they lose all these kids on Joe Biden's watch, but now it's the task of the Trump administration to try to find them. And they're being found, slowly but surely, even the ones that are deceased. This is a huge problem. Congressman Clay Higgins, in the summertime, gave, he was, conducting questions. He was interviewing a witness that was giving testimony in Congress. And in a moment of just sheer emotion, he just shouted, "We, in effect, created a pipeline, a sex trafficking pipeline." And I think that happened in April. And let me tell you, this is horrible. This is a bad look for America. This is what happened in Joe Biden's administration. And people who want to attack me for coming at Democrats, good luck. Get in line. Because from embracing violent crime, being soft and embracing Marxism, and now this, the outright acceptance of sex trafficking, labor trafficking, child trafficking, absolute insanity. Enough is enough, and we have to put an end to it. Anyway, amigos, we're going to get to your calls and more, plus plenty more to discuss tonight. We're going to have some conversation on protecting children. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Right now, if your kid wants to sign up for a gaming or social media platform, they can lie about their age and in most instances get full access. And parents worry these apps could put their young kids in danger. Well, Roblox today unveiling new technology to protect the youngest kids online using facial recognition and AI to figure out a child's real age.
On the Roblox platform, chats and interaction are the name of the game. So this morning, Roblox rolling out what they're calling age estimation in order for teens to access more unfiltered private messaging and voice chats so they can chat more freely and know that the friends they make online are the age they say they are. The innovation? Players will use a selfie technology so the company's AI systems can analyze their facial features to try to determine if they're over the age of 13.
Obviously, we can't estimate someone's age perfectly, but we can get really close.
I give it a try.
Ready to take a selfie? Let's do it. Turn left, turn right. I know this is going to come as a surprise, but it actually says I'm not under 13 years old.
While this will give parents a little more peace of mind, it could also have ripple effects across the tech industry, an industry that's been grilled for not protecting kids.
So that's the latest with Roblox. Now, you may remember we spoke about this a while back, how the predators were using Roblox to get to your kids. And I was blown away by this. Again, I don't have little kids anymore, but at the time I was dating a girl with a 6-year-old. And she played, I think she played it a little bit after, we did the interview with Dr. Strohman. That didn't happen anymore. And this is a fascinating concept to me, the whole thing. I think so many people don't know that these digital video games that are out there can be a gateway for predators. And these predators can get access to your kids. And in one case, not far from me, in Wayne, New Jersey, kid left the house, was on their way to meet the bad guy. And then, the cops got involved, parents intervened, and the cops were able to get to the kid before they got to the bad guy. But wow. That's what's going on. So I want to bring in our guest. We've had her on a while back, and I thought it was past due that we have her back. Dr. Lisa Strohman was a visiting scholar in the FBI's profiling unit in the Child Abduction and Serial Killer Unit, where she was on the front lines of profiling the Columbine tragedy. She's witnessed how the internet can be used in ways that are harmful to children. And she's the CEO of Digital Citizen Academy. She's a lawyer and a PhD level psychologist, and really specializes in the area where psychology and technology meet, where it comes to cyberbullying, grooming, dealing with predators, and the consequences of all of that. So quite an expert in my opinion. And I want to get into this because this is an interesting time. Dr. Strohman, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Rich. Happy to be here.
You bet. So I want to talk about this because it seems like there is some development now, right, with a new way to protect kids that is using facial age estimation technology, right? So I guess facial recognition that determines your age. And this is, to protect kids from Roblox, because one prosecutor said it was the perfect place for pedophiles. Tell us more.
Absolutely. I think what the audience has to remember is that anytime you have a need, you're going to find probably the least restrictive platform or area that you can go. So before we had the internet, these bad actors and pedophiles would go to parks, or they would go to, Disneyland. They would go to places that they knew kids gathered in. And so now that we're in this digital world, you can imagine that where they go now are these platforms that kids live on. And Roblox has, 40 million different experiences, and kids every minute of every day, that if you are somebody that's looking to have a conversation or try to groom a child, it is a very open forum for you to go in and have these conversations with these kids.
And this is, I think, alarming for parents who are just hearing this for the first time, and alarming that there's such a vulnerability in this platform. and I guess refreshing to know that there's this technology that may be able to help them. How did this come about? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think that we are unfortunately on a very painful learning curve. I don't think that big tech was developed with the intent or the mission to go out and defraud or take advantage of young children or any of the various maladies that occur on their platforms. And so I think that what we're seeing is we're trying to figure out ways in which we can try to keep kids safe. And there's a lot of problematic, trial and error that's occurring now. And so, I'm one of those people that I dig deep. And so I'm looking at the spatial age estimation, which obviously is facial recognition. And I, went down the rabbit hole and I was like, all right, what are they trying to do here? And, they're outsourcing it to another company. And I went on to that other company, which is called Persona. And for the audience, it's with persona.com. And I welcome you to go in and look at their privacy policies, because it's quite interesting to me that they basically say, we are doing this on behalf of our customer, which would be Roblox hiring them. And then what they're going to do is take data from our children or from the adults performing. And then if you scroll down further and further, there's also this area that says, oh, and by the way, if you're a U.S. resident, you're going to automatically have a class action waiver restriction. And so if anything bad happens, you are not allowed to come after us.
Well, Doc, I want to dig into that because that's something we're not hearing in the news. And that's why we bring in the big guns like you to tell us the truth. Folks, we're coming right back with Dr. Lisa Strohman, JD, PhD, pedophile hunter. And we're going to learn more about this. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if a viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
The kids at this computer summer camp outside Chicago are definitely having fun. But the lessons they're learning are serious.
What should you do if you think your account has been hacked?
They're playing a game that teaches them how to spot online fraud.
What is the best way to protect yourself from scammer emails? I got it.
Kids are basically being born with an iPad or a phone in their hands. And for them to understand how to become part of a connected society.
The University of Chicago's Marshni Chetty designed the Cybernaut app to help them become cyber safe.
So that we're not just throwing them in a pool with sharks. We're trying to get them comfortable with the pool before there are any sharks in the water.
Kids are online. I realize that that's, a constant for many people my age. I'm 47. I wasn't online. We didn't have the internet until I was, like 18 years old or something like that. But it's a thing now. And she's right. Kids are being born with touch screen equipment in their hands, and it's a new world. And many kids like Roblox. Roblox right now facing about half a dozen lawsuits alleging that the website allows grooming and other things to happen. And the lawsuit cites that there are virtual strip clubs in the game, that there are multiple mentions of Sean Diddy Combs and Jeffrey Epstein and other explicit themes in the Roblox platform. And one of the lawsuit filings describes a 10-year-old girl that was allegedly groomed on Roblox, then lured into sending explicit images of herself, and dozens of similar cases. So we're talking about this with a true expert on this topic, Dr. Lisa Strohman, who's spent some time as a visiting scholar in the FBI's profiling unit, in the child abduction and serial killer unit, as well as a bunch of other things that she's done in her career, both as a PhD level psychologist and an attorney. She's the CEO of Digital Citizen Academy. And I want to pick up where we left off because she was making a point about the fine print on the privacy policy before we took our pause. So I want to get her take on the fine print and then her take on all the rest of the stuff that I just mentioned. Dr. Lisa Strohman, welcome back.
Thanks. So the privacy policies, which rarely anybody reads, is one of the areas that I dive into anytime I'm in a school system or presenting to families. And I really tear it apart. And I just say, here's what you're actually agreeing to, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or whatever, Roblox, whatever it is, understand what you agree to as just the terms to go on to the platform to use it. And you would be shocked in many of them. And most recently, I was in front of, I think, 1,600 kids, and I went through TikTok, which basically comes out in plain English and says, you are essentially giving us the right to do whatever we want with your data. And it really frustrates and upsets kids when they start to understand that. And in this situation, the fine print of what Roblox is partnering with and using a third-party app, it disseminates the ability for the family to find a direct line of how to protect their kids. So Roblox can turn to Persona. Persona can say, we are providing a service for Roblox, and we actually have a waiver that you already agreed to, knowing that you are going to use our service. Right. You can't do a class action suit. And so therefore you've got a family and take, for instance, what the MDL or the multi-district litigation is happening in the United States right now, which is a massive lawsuit that is going against big tech for them engineering and creating products that were creating injury for our children. And without the ability to do a class action suit, it doesn't touch the industry. But if you have 100 cases and you're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars that you can go in and say, oh, it's hundreds of millions of children that you created eating disorders in, or hundreds of millions of children on Roblox that have been exposed to graphic, pornographic language and images through your platform. Now you actually have teeth to be able to stop the industry and create change in it. And that's the part that I find so fascinating when I went in and looked up Persona, that they're like, hey, for a U.S. resident, you are not going to be able to do any sort of class action suit. You're waiving that away by facilitating and using our service. So, to me, it is unfair to the family and the kids that are trying to just go online and want to do something for fun. Because I agree with everyone out there. The internet is an amazing platform that can be used for good, and kids should be able to feel safe in it. And they aren't safe in it. And this effort to do age verification, which is essentially giving them, if you're 13 and under, it gives them some safeguards in place, meaning that they're not going to be able to establish trusted connections, which, by the way, Rich, that means that they can't have unfiltered chats. But if you're 13 and over, you now can have unfiltered chats, and you can have access into a kind of an area called the party mode, and they can go and do whatever they want, 13 and up. Last time I checked, a child can't consent at 13. So this is all based on COPA and our country's basis of you have a right at the age of 13 to go on and do whatever you want online, which is asinine. It just is not fair to the families and the kids. And you have to understand that these platforms know that, and they know that they're inviting adults into these platforms that are going to be going after the kids. And it's sickening to me.
I agree. Now, Dr. Lisa Strohman, CEO of Digital Citizen Academy, I want you to give me a little insight into how a nice girl like you ends up doing this very unique type of work, FBI profiling, JD, PhD. Are you a shrink like a clinician, or are you a shrink like researcher? And how much of the law work? I mean, it seems like you're really hand in hand. You're like, hey, let me help you out, and I'll sue these guys. It's so unique to me. How did you get involved in this?
So I started out when I was an undergrad. I was an advocate and worked with a family that had autistic children. They had 4 of them, and I learned about legislative policies, and I learned about how to get their kids mainstreamed. And I had a professor, and she said, you You're very intuitive. You're really good clinically, but you also have this heart in you and this passion to help those that need help. And so the study PhD program, I honestly went into thinking I was going to be a guardian ad litem or somebody who works in the legal system, representing and standing up for kids that didn't have a voice. I grew up with a lot of challenges in my own life, and there were adults there for me. And so that's how I got into it, and then fell into the position of the honors intern with the FBI, and then became a visiting scholar. And once I was in that world and I saw at that moment, because I was there in 99, so you're looking at someone who was there before social media became a thing, and I was with the agency and saw this all happening and saw how kids were going to use the internet differently than what we intended. And of course they would, because they're curious and they're learning and they're exploring, and we should want them to do that. But we have to, as the adults in the room, understand that puts them in a vulnerable position, and somebody needed to step up and do something about it and talk about the things that were happening.
Fascinating. If there's space to nominate a czar for a digital pedophile hunter, I recommend President Trump pick you, because really this is interesting work. Not
Thank
just
you.
the Roblox thing, which I think can keep you busy for a long time, but how it leads into so many other areas. And, where you find these holes or these vulnerabilities with Roblox, I'm sure you can find them elsewhere. I have two kids, they're both adults now, but I remember when they started using Instagram and whatnot, you had to say you were 13. I think they were 9. And I was like, don't use that. That's not for you. You're not 13. But they clearly had them. So, this is going on. And I'm wondering, that was me, monitoring as best I could. I'm wondering, I think it's so much more accessible today. Back then, not every phone was equipped with Wi-Fi. Now they are.
Well,
it's amazing to me.
Yeah, and I think your comment of like you were doing the best you can, they do not make it easy by design, and that's part of the MDL and that litigation against big tech. I worry about normalizing things like surveillance using facial recognition with young children. I mean, that is by far the most sought after data that you're going to find in the dark net. They're going to go in and now with AI and the ability to morph an image, you take a small child and you literally give them permission to modify it however you want and sell it to the highest bidder. And we have to start talking about that honestly to parents.
I agree. And from the national security perspective, I just had a big conversation with Dr. Eric Cole last night about how people are stealing information all the time. And you just mentioned it's the most valuable because they're younger. Well, we have enemies like China that are desperate to get this type of information and hold on to people, and they own TikTok in many ways. From your knowledge, are foreign actors involved in any of this?
Well, absolutely. I think that anything in a tech-related space is going to have an international party that's there, that's working in it. So you're not able to, and this is the part that I try to impart on the kids as much as I possibly can. The minute that you agree to give your image away or your comments or anything like that, you've basically given them tacit permission to take anything that you have, what you concern as private. And the minute it crosses over outside of our jurisdiction, meaning outside the United States, we do not have legal authority to go outside there and get it. So you may have a child that is 13, 14, 15, let's say that they're quote unquote old enough to be on these apps or these things, and they make a mistake and they send a picture of themselves without clothes on, or they do something that is hateful or something like that. They do not have a right to pull that back. Whereas in the UK, and you go across the pond, they have something that's called the Right to be Forgotten Act, and they have protections in place that we don't have. And the minute I bring that up to these kids, which my whole goal is to get into every school in the United States and get the kids to become their own advocates, because them coming together would be more powerful, and they could take down the tech industry and make the rules as they believe them to be. And I tell them, I said, they silo you and isolate you on purpose so so that you don't think that you have this power. But imagine the hundreds of millions of kids that are on these devices, and if they said, you know what, I don't agree to your terms, and they all deleted the app and the money went away, they absolutely would bring big tech to their knees.
There's a lot of power in we the people, or in this case, we the children.
Absolutely.
Dr. Lisa Strohman, you're the CEO of Digital Citizen Academy. The website is digitalcitizenacademy.org. If people want to support your work or learn more about it, is that the best place for them to go?
Absolutely. Or faster is dcakids.org. Yep. We're trying to change lives. And Yep.
Well, I'm out of time on this segment. I got to take a break here, but I want to thank you for being here, and I'm going to work on inviting you back already because this stuff moves quickly, and nobody knows it like you do. Dr. Lisa Strohman, CEO of Digital Citizen Academy, dcakids.org, digitalcitizenacademy.org. Check them out. Support the cause. Dr. Lisa, thank you.
Thanks so much, Rich. Appreciate it.
You bet. God bless, Godspeed. And amigos, your thoughts, calls, and reactions coming up right now.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
You're educating America, and you are giving us an opportunity to speak freely. That's why I love this station, and I love your show.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, to the phones we go. Let's go to Les calling us from Daytona Beach, Florida, WNDB on line 2. Les, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, you said if you were on that light rail in Carolina, you don't know what you would have done. And I'm calling to say that I always carry a canister, a small canister of pepper spray in my pocket, like the postman carries. And it works because I've accidentally sprayed myself. It works really good.
Let me tell you, I also always carry pepper spray. Very rarely will I not have it with me. To me, it's one of the best things you can use. You cannot start shooting people on a subway car, especially in New York City. There's literally 200 people sometimes on those things during rush hour, body to body. It's like a nightclub. It's packed. So can't do that. Now, if you deploy mace in a subway car, everybody's getting sprayed. But I will tell you, I've gotten into some stuff, and I have sprayed people in the subway. And you do it in the right place, you do it at the right time, you can minimize the fallout. As long as you're protecting yourself and whatnot. I would recommend getting off the train and do it on the platform if you're in such a situation and there's no cops around. But yeah, you're right. I agree. Everybody should carry whatever you're legally allowed to carry. There's those pepper ball guns. I think those are great. There's real guns. I think those are great. There's small cans of mace. There's bigger cans of mace. I haven't used bear spray per se, but I hear it's fantastic. You see all the Antifa guys use that. And in some places it's legal, in some places it's not. So don't take this as legal advice. But expandable batons, wherever those are legal, that is a great combination tool for a left-right combo. If you're on subway or any type of commute situation, I think it's always good. Left hand on the mace, right hand on the baton. Know how to do your strikes, Z formation or right off the shoulder, hit the clavicle, wrists, any type of limb, whatever you got to do. But I think it's an effective way to keep yourself safe if you're doing that without having to pump lead into somebody, which I don't think anybody wants to do. But you're right, Lester. Yeah, people need to be alert and aware. And back to what I said. Yeah, I'm glad I just don't know. I'm glad that I've realized that I'd be dumbfounded. I watched that video and I can't find, there's no words, right? It's so gut-wrenching. So in that sense, I don't know what I would do. What I would want to do, I would want to try to prevent it, stop it, help the girl, stop the bleeding, all of that. But, I've watched the video. main video where he stops short. I've seen that one several times. And then the two newer ones that were released today, each of them kind of snuck up on my feed, and I honestly regret seeing them. They're gruesome, they're horrifying, and they're just depressing, honestly. And I think that's how I reacted watching a video. I can only imagine how broken I'd be in real life. And who knows, maybe I would have reacted. I hope I would have. But truly, truly sad stuff. Lester, thanks for the call, brother. Coming right back, your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, to the phones we go. 833-4-VALDEZ. Open phones across America, live and national. I want to go to our buddy Antonio, our Italian friend in Canada. Go for it.
How you doing, Rich? I
Great.
just want to say really quickly, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Rich?
Gotcha.
Listen. Emily Carlson, a Chicago beautiful woman, was murdered because a guy decided to stab her from behind and sever her artery, where she died a few hours later. Irina Zatsurutska died in a horrific, unbelievable attack today. And the Democrats are willing to spend billions of dollars fighting wars in Afghanistan, in Ukraine, but they don't want to spend a dime protecting American citizens from a horrific crime. Today, the good news is Hassan Badr.
You're right. Listen, it's funny what you say about the Democrats. They want to do everything, yet clean up their own backyard. When it comes to sending federal troops to stop crime in D.C. or in Chicago or New York City, everybody said, no, don't do that, don't do that. We'll continue to have more deaths. I mean, this is brutality. The Democrats are embracing brutality, and we the people need to reject it. That's it. At large. Antonio, thanks for the call, my brother. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdes.